Hi there, Andre here from Peak Motorcycles. I'm back in the garage again, and today I'm going to do a video about suspension, or at least the removal of suspension. Now I'm also trying something new as well. Some people who had watched my other videos asked if it was possible for me to record in 4K. Until quite recently I didn't have a 4K TV, so to be honest it never really occurred to me. But after checking through, it looks like the GoPro Hero 7s that I use will support 4K, and I'm kind of hoping that my laptop will also be powerful enough to process 4K video, but we shall see. If it takes a bit longer, it takes a bit longer, but I'm certainly willing to try it. So this is the first video that I've done in 4K. I'll try and do a riding video. I'm going to head out tomorrow to Lincolnshire, which is on the east side of the UK, with two other guides from Magellan Motorcycle Tours. It'll be on-road only, so I'll take one of the other bikes, but I'll use that as an opportunity to have a bit of a play with 4K. And if that works out okay, then that will be my riding video for next weekend. For today's video, I'll be taking the forks, the fork tubes off my CRF300 Rally. I've finally decided what I'm going to pick for my suspension options, and to find out what that is, you'll have to watch my news update on Monday evening when I put that up. But needless to say, I'm going to be sending the fork tubes away so that I can have some cartridges fitted specially for the Rally. They're going to go to the factory, and it will be the first bike that has these particular cartridges fitted. Unfortunately, this means I'm going to be without it on the road for a couple of weeks, because I think it will take a while for them to basically fit the cartridges to my forks, and they've got to ship them back and then I have to refit them. It's really a dismantling episode today and an attempt to try out 4K video. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take the front wheel off. There's these two pinch bolts that need to be loosened, and then there's a 14mm hex that goes into the axle, and then the axle unscrews. Now at the moment I've actually got the bike on the ground. I'm just going to loosen these off a little bit, just because I know that the axle bolt in particular is quite tight. So I need to be able to get enough force on that, and I don't really want to pull it off the stand. Pinch bolts first. It's just those two, and they just need to be loose. It's basically, that's just the clamp that's holding the axle in place. Then to remove the axle bolt, this one here, I've actually just got it, I think it's actually an oil plug remover on a 3/8 inch drive. I don't know if you've seen these. It's a tyre lever at one end. So these are made by Motion Pro. It's alloy. On one end it's got a 24mm ring spanner, which is what you need to take the back wheel off. The other end has got a tyre spoon, and then in a helpful way they make these, which is a 24mm nut shape on one side and a 3/8 inch drive on the other. It's a really easy thing. It weighs next to nothing. I'm hoping I'm not going to break it when I try and take this off, but if you need to do this by the side of a trail, it's ideal. Okay, so I'm just going to loosen that off a little bit like that. I'm going to jack the bike up and then take it out the rest of the way. So of course you don't actually need to jack the bike up. I'm doing it in my garage. I have the bike lift here, and then frankly it's a lot easier to get the camera in the right angle when it's off the ground, and a bit easier to work on. But if you're doing this trail side, there are bike stands available that can just support the weight of the frame that will help you get this out. One other thing that is worth noting is that there is this gap in here. So it looks like it's missing a spacer, but that is exactly how it came from the factory. If you don't pay attention to that when you're taking it apart and when you're putting it back together again, it looks like that and you think you've missed a bit, it is definitely supposed to look like that. Okay, so I think that's out. Oops, there we go, that's the wheel out. So just going to lay that down for a moment. So if you can see, there are these two spacers, one that goes either side of the wheel plus the axle. I'm just going to pop those on there just to keep them safe. And I'll just put that to one side. So I think the next thing I'm going to try and remove is the fork protector, and that's just coming off with a 6mm hex wrench. Oh, one more at the back. Okay, so that will come off. I'm going to do the same for this one. This one looks a little bit different because it's got the ABS sensor behind it, but there's two on this side and then the other one is on the inside. So if you ever have to replace your fork protectors, you are going to have to take the wheel off or find a way to get to the one on the inside to get it off. That's that. And if you can see the third one in here. Now I can also see that I have the ABS sensor in here, so I'm just going to make sure that this will come off cleanly. Okay, there are two more to be undone. Yeah, that's these two here. These ones need an 8mm socket. I'm going to pop those back in there so I don't lose them. And hopefully that will just come loose. Yep, there we go. So that's the ABS sensor. I just had to be a bit careful of, but that's the other fork protector off. So I think the last things I need to do to be able to loosen the forks is to take off the brake caliper and also take off the ABS sensor. So that one is also an 8mm, and this is the ABS sensor. That's also on there, and that, I don't know if you can see this one here. So this just has like a push fitting on the back. Let's get some pliers for that. There we go. So that's free. So the last thing is, I think, just to get the brake caliper off there. The brake caliper is a 12mm nut. Okay, so that's the brake system off completely. So I think that's the forks just back to what they are. So the next thing I'm going to do is loosen the clamp bolts and then just remove the forks themselves. So hopefully you can see that. It's these two bolts here, and they're 10mm bolts that I'm just going to loosen. There's one. Gosh, that's extremely tight. That's that one. And then the last two are these top two here. So I'm just going to loosen those off, but I'm also just going to grab the bottom of the fork. I don't think it'll slip out. I don't think they're that loose. There we go. That's those. That's one. I can't quite get my ring spanner onto that one. There we go. And if you only have ring spanners, you can just undo this bolt here, and then this will move that guard out the way. Okay, oh, and then that fork comes out pretty easily from there. So there you go. So that's one of them out. I'm just going to give that a bit of a clean before I wrap it up to send. But as you can see, that is, yeah, that's one half of the fork out. So to do the other side, in theory this should be easier because I'm actually pushing down on these two bolts instead of up, as I was on the other side. But let's see. Yeah, it's just that bit easier to get some leverage behind it. Oh, just got my spanner stuck. So yeah, that's the top two done. Hope you can see these other two just up in here, exactly the same as the other side, except I'm half expecting that this is going to drop when I get them off. There we go, that's one, and then the last one, and then the last one, so I'm expecting the fork to drop as soon as this is loose. There we go. So you have it, that's the other one out. So that's both forks out. So I'm just going to give those a bit of a clean up, going to bubble wrap them, and they're going to go in a box and they'll be collected tomorrow to be taken away to a secret location to have the very first cartridges for the Honda CRF300 Rally fitted to them from this particular manufacturer. So I'm just going to give them a quick clean with some of these Vulcanet wipes, which are just great. They're like a degreaser. I use them just for cleaning all the road muck off my bike normally, but it's just a lot easier to do this when they're not on the bike. They're not covered by fork protectors. Or there's anything else that can get in the way. Yeah, I probably should wash my bike more often. Somehow just jetting it down with some water after I've been out really isn't getting all the grime off. But hey, at least it's being used. Okay, I think that's pretty good for one. I think these wipes that I'm using, they're actually Vulcanet bike cleaning wipes, if you ever come across them. I know there's lots of others that are sort of similar. I think there's another brand called Miyagi wipes. But yeah, these ones are the Vulcan ones. That one's got a bit of grit on it, so I'm not going to use it for the other one. I'll get a fresh one. It's these. I'll put a link in the I'll put a link in the description. They are quite handy. I just use them especially when you get that sort of caked on dirt that sort of solidifies on the exhaust. They're just really good for clearing that up. Yeah, I think there's actually lots of this crud gets in underneath the fork protector. It is actually protecting the fork lowers, which is what it's there for, but it does mean that there's quite a lot of accumulation of this sort of muddy dust on the bottom of the fork. I don't think it's a problem really, but as it's here and it's going to be sent somewhere where they're going to measure it, I think it's best that I try and make it as presentable as possible. There we go, that's nice and clean. Just going to give those fork lowers a bit of a wipe. So that's it. That's my video on how to remove the forks from a Honda CRF300 Rally. It would be exactly the same steps to remove the forks from a Honda CRF300L, except you've got less bodywork to contend with, so it should be a little bit more accessible. I'm now going to go and pack up my forks and send them off. A courier's coming tomorrow to whisk them away, and I'll get them back in 1 to 2 weeks' time with a new suspension cartridge fitted. I will let you know exactly which one I picked and why if you tune into my news update, which will go out on Monday evening, UK time, Monday afternoon, US time. So thanks for watching. Hope this has been interesting and useful. If it has, please like and subscribe, and I will see you next time.